All right, and welcome back for the second period. This is where we have our special guest interview. And today we have a really special guest, like we have had in the past. But today we have a former Islander defenseman, a major fan favorite, and somebody we used to call a human wrecking ball when he was out there on the ice, Mr. Darius Kasparaitis. Welcome aboard, Darius. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Hey, listen, we got a lot to talk about. You had a great career, and even before your career even started, a very, very remarkable youth career. But before that, how's everything going with you? What are you up to? What you got going on these days?
Listen, I have a great career on ice and off ice. It's basically, I just went through the third divorce. I getting married fourth time, so life goes on, man. We're not looking back, moving forward. No, everything's good. I'm a father of 6 kids, and I'm fortunate to have 5 kids when I retire. So I had plenty of time to be a dad and be part of their lives. And sometimes relationships don't work out, and I think it is maybe a bad thing, but same time it's a good thing. You can experience other things in life.
So everything's going well with the kids. You have 6 kids. How old are they? And how many boys, girls? How's it going?
I have three girls and 3 boys. My oldest girl is 28. She was born in Pittsburgh. And my 2 girls, twins, they 17. They were born in Sweden. My boy, 15, is born in Russia. And I have 2 boys, 11 and 9, both born in Miami, Florida.
Wow.
Yeah. So when I travel, always with American passports, you see they always put the place of birth, and every time I travel, they ask me if I was I work for United Nations. All the kids born in different places.
You're going to put you in the consulate up here somewhere.
Yeah.
So do you get back to Long Island often? A while back, we actually met briefly. You're not going to remember it, but there was an alumni weekend. You were up here, and I was lucky enough to be up in the UBS suites, and a lot of you guys remember that a couple of years ago. And I tell you, you were always one of the fan favorites when you were here, and even to this day, some 30 plus years later, you're still a fan favorite. People flocking around you like crazy.
Oh, I appreciate the people appreciate my game, and I feel like I'm always treated, especially fans, as a part of the team. I think I never had this attitude towards people who watch me play that I was special. I don't have to say hello. I don't have to sign autographs. I had maybe a little stretch in Pittsburgh when I got tired of it, especially having a long hair and being recognized everywhere. It got a little bit too much, but same time, that's what we do. We play hockey, we play sports. We have people that follow us, and I think I always feel grateful that people appreciate my talent.
Yeah, well, look, when you play the game the way you did, you're gonna get a lot of fans. I mean, even when the team's not doing well, the teams always gravitate to the guys who are working hard. Obviously, the guys who are producing. But the guys who, regardless of what's going on, are constantly hitting and making everyone's life miserable on the other team, they're always going to be a team favorite. And you had a knack for that, my friend.
I feel like I always played that way. Even when I came to Long Island, I remember my first year, I even played like that in practice. That's why I had a lot of problems with Mick Wakota and Rich Pilon. They try to kill me every practice because I play. I used to go out. Go after the guys even during a practice, hitting them, and they would get very upset. Ray Ferraro, all the older guys, Patrick Flatley, and even right now at 53, when I play hockey, I still play with a passion and sometimes with the edge. Sometimes I ask myself why, but I don't know why. What's wrong with me and why I do that way? But I think I was born that way with competitive spirit, and that's why I still have it, and they kind of. I'm asking myself when I'm gonna feel old.
Well, you are a lucky man. If you're feeling that way right now at 53, which I've blown by probably about 10 years ago, it's if you can still feel that way at that age, you are certainly blessed. Especially if you can still get out there on skates. And a lot of guys 53 who had the kind of career you did, especially the physical aspect of it. Lots of surgeries after their career ends. A lot of limitations. So if you can still get out there and have at it, I mean that's just a blessing.
Honestly, I really love hockey. I don't know. I have such a big passion, especially not watching hockey, but playing. And I'm playing hockey tomorrow, and I'm every week. I get excited. Tomorrow, I know I'm gonna be excited like a little kid because I'm gonna go play the game I love. And I feel that way all the time. I never understood the guys who play the game and they don't want to do anything with the game now. They not like hated it, but they so tired of it. They don't want to put the skates on. But I think the game is so fun. You go, you trash talk, you make fun of people, you trash talk when you win. You feel like a sore loser when you lose. So it's a very good emotional thing to feel it. For an hour or two.
You're able to blow off a lot of steam, right?
It's only one place you can act out like that. Only on the ice rink. If you do that in the real life, driving or
you got a lot of problems
in a store buying groceries, you might get arrested.
Yeah, right. I was going to say, you'd be looking in your rear view and you see the lights going, woo, right? Well, listen, getting on the hockey aspect, which is obviously why we're here. I always like to, with Ray and I, when we talk to our guests, we always like to hear about the beginnings of these remarkable careers you people have. And you were born and raised in Lithuania.
Yeah.
When did you wind up? I mean, you hear about the guys in Canada all the time. Yeah, they've been on skates since they're 2 or 3 years old. They've got lakes and ponds in their backyard, rivers they skate on all the time, or the dad makes it in their own rink in the backyard. How did your love affair with skating and then with hockey, tell us how that all came about?
Oh, it's very simple. I lived in a small town, and our town in Lithuania had a first ice rink that was built. Even it was built during the times when I was start playing hockey. He had a roof, and we had an opportunity to skate every winter or fall, spring, and winter. So what happened? Older kids in my neighborhood, they used to wear this hockey equipment. They used to go to practice to walk, from the apartment building, just walk down to the street and go to practice. And I really had I loved how they looked. They wear all this hockey equipment, helmets, shoulder pads. It looked cool to me. And so when I was 8 years old, we had a guy who was, my coach. We became my coach. It was Alexei Nikiforov. Came to school and asked who wants to play hockey. And I was the first guy. I want to play, And what happened? We did a lot of off-ice training in the summer. We did a lot of jumping. And I never forget when I put my skates on. Actually, I had a figure skates, and my dad cut the front teeth of the figure skates the way you more, look like a hockey player, hockey skates. I always remember that. I put the skates on. I stepped on the ice and I started skating. I was shocked. I never skated before in my life, and I put it on and I started skating. I was like, wow! I thought I was gonna fall down. Grab the boards. I just started skating, and I was shocked. It was like God gifted to me that I was a hockey player. It was weird. 8 years old, and 8 years later, I was playing already on the highest level in Russia. That was the weirdest part. It took me 8 years from learning how to skate to play on the highest level.
So at the time, Lithuania is part of the Soviet Union, right? So,
yeah.
So and you wound up playing on Soviet national teams and in the Soviet system. So I was just curious because after the wall comes down and Lithuania's independent country again, you don't see too many Lithuanians in the league anymore. I mean, there's some, but not a lot. And I know it's a small country, but I was just curious, like how many non-Russians were making it to that level that you made it at such a young age, outside of Russia.
Well, basically, before me, during all the Soviet hockey history, I think there was one guy from Latvia, Helmut Balderis, who was playing on a high level. And then me coming from Lithuania, I was the first guy who actually played for the national team for USSR. And then, he won an Olympic gold medal. Then other things I did with the Russian team already. But playing as a kid, I didn't think about playing for, all those things. I played for my local team. I remember we used to play Russian teams in the tournaments. And we used to get beat 35-0, 40-0. I was playing forward, not defense. No, I'm joking. But eventually, I started playing better and better, and then my dream became to play somewhere at a higher level, for the bigger team, and that's how I got invited when I was 14. I got invited to play for Dynamo Moscow, junior program, and then I left my home as a 14-year-old and went to tryouts. I made a team, and I started living on my own as a 14-year-old in Moscow, which was a big shock because at that time we had no money and I didn't speak Russian as well as I do now. So for me, it was a very good experience, but same time it was very homesick. I was homesick a lot. I cry a lot. I wanted my mom and dad. I want to go home. I actually ran away at the end of the season. I came back home and said I don't want to play hockey anymore. I want to live in Lithuania, and they drove me back. The same day they drove me back to Moscow, and Alexei Nikiforov actually drove me back. And that day when I arrived that morning in Moscow, I was invited to national team first time. As a first time Lithuanian-born player was invited to play for Soviet Union team for 15-year-old kids. I made a team. So basically, almost screw up my career by just going back home and not wanting to play hockey in Russia at that time.
And I was just going to ask you, when this was when you were done, was when did you feel you were ready to make that jump from where you started to this higher level of play? I mean, you were invited, you were kind of steered in that direction, I guess. But like you said, you had your homesickness problems, and you jumped on a train to come home, and then, like you said, Nikiforov came and got you and drove you all the way back. In your mind, did you think that you were ready, both emotionally and physically, skill-wise, to make that jump to the big club?
No, I don't know. I think I felt proud of myself that I got invited to play for the big club. And I don't really thought that way as a kid. You just go there and try to survive and try to be a part of the team and try to play good. And eventually, things fall like in your lap, basically. I play for the juniors, then I got invited to play for the main team, couple games as a 16-year-old, and I just realized maybe I'm not that bad. But I never had a dream, I got to play for the NHL team or anything. I just want to play on the highest level possible in Soviet Union at that time. Like playing for the national team, going to World Juniors, going to junior tournaments with the national team, and eventually things worked out well for me. Soviet Union fall apart. We had experience. We had an opportunity to leave, and I was not ready to leave yet. They just told me, "You want to go play NHL?" I'm like, "Sure, okay, go." Next day was gone. And that was so fast comparing for a year before. If you even ask to go to NHL, you will get probably punished by pretending that you want to defect.
There was still Eastern European players that were over prior to that, but it might.
Yeah.
I think David Volek was the first Islander to come from Eastern Europe. I think he came in like '89, so that must have been around that time, right? So it was still kind of frowned upon, though, even if like you got drafted.
Well, I think '91 guys start going out more and more because '91 Soviet Union was demolished, and I think a lot of guys, like older guys, had chance to go play NHL, and all the young guys that we took over, we had a 1 year experience playing in Russia, and then suddenly we all got drafted. I remember my draft year '92. I think maybe 6, 7 Russian guys were drafted first round. So even guys like me, was fifth overall. I think Andrei Nazarov, which is a top guy, was drafted 10 overall. I think they drafted everybody who can come and play. So I think they gave us freedom to do whatever we want. So we came to the NHL.
So you got drafted as a 20-year-old then in '92.
Yeah, I got drafted as a 19-year-old, but I was turning 20 in '92 in October. So I started my first season as a 19-year-old for 3 games, and then I turned 20 October 16, 1992. I played my first game, I think, October 6, 1992. I remember everything against New Jersey Devils. My first shift, I hit two guys, Tom Chorsky and Bill Guerin. Same hit. I took the two guys out in New Jersey.
Hey, speaking of that, speaking of that, in that time frame of when you went back to Russia after coming home, and then moving forward through these international challenges, was your game already developed, or did it kind of develop along the way, or did you feel you had to change into something, or is that just instinctive and right from the beginning your style of play, of that physical agitator, and I mean clean, but I mean just an agitating defender, with a mean streak and just a love of hitting people? Did that start right off the bat?
I was competitive all the time since I was a kid. I remember my first hit, I was probably 9, and I just hammered the guy into the boards. I felt so good. I was like, wow. The guy tried to do this dip-to-doodle. I just run him over. And I didn't really, I played physical all my junior years, but not as crazy as I came to NHL. I think what happened in NHL, because I was playing in a Soviet system, so it was more about puck movement, more skill, more, a finesse game. And then when I came to NHL, it was so easy for me to hit. It was like natural, and I realized people appreciated it. So I was like, why not? Like I didn't want to, I didn't practice my game to be that way, but it ended up being that way. And I realized that you can get very popular too by doing that. And then suddenly I start feeling pressure. I gotta not scoring goals, but like I have to make a big hit, to get the people going, to get the team going. But in the beginning, I just I didn't realize that I had the ability to play physical hockey. Then I realized when you go after the big guys, because in the beginning when I came to NHL my first year, I didn't give a shit about Lemieux, Gretzky, or Messi. I didn't grow up watching them, so for me they were just regular players. So
Right.
I realized if I go after them, everybody goes crazy. They want to kill you, so they stop playing the game. So I realized, wow, why not? Like I can do that also. Just go after the star player with the big hits. First of all, especially when you play in National Coliseum, you hit guy like Messi, everybody goes bananas. And also the Rangers going bananas want to kill you. So that was awesome, It was entertaining.
So just moving backwards a little bit, when you played with Dynamo Moscow,
Yeah.
were you part of? Because I actually went to a game in the late '80s. I don't know if it was '88, '89. They played at the Coliseum against the Islanders, and I think they pretty much spanked the Islanders. Were you part of that team, or were you with them a
No,
little later on?
I was involved with the team in the system, but I was not going to play then. I was only, I think, 17 at that time. So no way they're gonna bring me, and play me against the NHL team. I was the first time I played for the team fully. I think it was '90. In '91, we became champions of Russia. And '92, I left. So my 1991 season, I played for them, full seasons.
I tell you, you had such an interesting beginning, and it it's it doesn't even compare to when you came here to play for the Islanders. You get drafted in the first round,
Yeah.
fifth overall, right? So you get here, you get drafted by Bill Torrey, and then within a couple of months, Bill Torrey is given his walking papers by that whole ownership thing that was going on around here behind the scenes. Don Maloney is your new GM.
Yeah.
So when you first got here and you first got drafted, being from another country, did that insulate you from a lot of the just bad vibes that were going around at the time because of what was going on? Or did you feel that right away? Or did other players enlighten you about things? What was it like going from Russia, first round draft pick, to living in America on Long Island, to being in the NHL, and then that stuff going on in the background? Did it matter?
I didn't really knew until you told me now. I didn't even know there was things happening when I played. I came, I remember landing in JFK, coming to Marriott Hotel, and tried to call Vladimir Malakov to tell him I'm here. And that's it. And living my dream for my first year was like a dream. New cities, new towns, excitement. I discovered Fridays. Fucking a lot of discovered scale for me because they realized that I was gaining weight so fast. So It was fun. I didn't realize anything that we had a problem with the team. Later on, when Spano came in, all this crap shit, and when Milbury happened, so I think then I already, was almost fifth year player in the league. I realized the team was in trouble, but I never knew, I never expected them to trade me because I thought I was gonna be out of there forever. The way I played, the way people loved me, and I don't know, I know what happened, but I got traded. But I was promised not to get traded by Milbury, who traded me. So, but I didn't know anything about turmoil my first two seasons in the league because I lived my life. I got good money. I drove a nice car, and I went to Huntington to drink beer. Underage.
We still do.
What? You still have a place on Long Island, or is that all gone?
No, all gone. I live in Florida full time. I actually took my girlfriend last year to Long Island, show the Northport, show Huntington. It was beautiful. I rented the pickup truck. Basically, she's from Lithuania, so we felt like a cowboys driving in Long Island. I went to visit some people in Northport in the deli. I say hello to some people that I knew from before. It was a cool experience going back to Long Island. I always loved Long Island. I don't know why. Something about Long Island because I like fishing, I like water. So I always felt like, that's the one place, if I ever go back, I will go back to Long Island.
That's great. When you were living in Northport, I believe it was, a
Yeah.
really close friend of mine, one of my best friends, was the guy who did the windows at your house. Do you remember when you had a window washing crew that would come and take care of your house back then?
Oh, listen, I didn't know I washed windows. Maybe it was the fan washing for free.
Yeah, no.
I only remember when the FBI came to my house. That's it.
Yeah,
Looking
I
for the
remember
window
when he
guy.
told me, and then I told him that you were going to be on the show. He said, "See if he remembers when we did his windows."
Yeah.
So that
But
so
that
that
year,
first
92,
season,
93, that 92, 93 year, and I know Ray is well aware of this too, and he'll agree with us. You guys still to this day, 30 plus years later, are considered the best post-dynasty team, that came down the pike after the glory years. There was a little lull, and then 92,
Yeah.
93, after, there was some issues with LaFontaine, and, they let Trottier go. They traded LaFontaine. They traded Brent Sutter. But Torrey was able to package people to come back and then actually help the team. You guys are considered really the best team that came out of that post-dynasty year, even to this day. What are your real specific, because that was your rookie year. What's your real specific memories of the year itself, before the playoffs, but the year itself being your rookie year and things going so well at the time after a little lull?
I think it's a group of guys, even when I came to the team, they welcomed me with open hands. I think the characters we had on a team, Glenn Healy, Ray Ferraro, Benoit Hall, all the guys, on the team. It was such a good player, not only players, but Steve Thomas, Mick Wukoda. We had a very good core. We did things together. We spent a lot of time together. We take care of each other. They took care of me a lot. They knew that I was a crazy young guy come to the new country, with a new experience. They took me, under the wing and showed me, the things, the way to do things. My first roommate, Carla Chance, was awesome. Same age as me. We play against each other, the juniors, and then suddenly we are roommates. He's my English teacher. That's why my English is still not really good, because we are used to watch Married with Children and learn English from whatever we watch. So
You get to learn a lot of
that's the
slang that
team.
way.
The kids line, Travis Green, Al McInnes, Brad Delgarno. It was just awesome. I'll never forget the trip to California when we rented the car, took the roof, a Jaguar or whatever, or maybe whatever convertible. Four was rookies, and we drove around Beverly Hills. There's the things I don't think kids experience right now being part of the team in NHL. I think everybody's getting paid a lot of money. Everybody has social media, blah blah blah. At those times when I came in, we had each other, So we did a lot of things. Yeah, we were so tight as a team. I think that's what happened in playoffs. We beat the Capitals, which was a good team, and then nobody gave us a chance to win even one game against the Pittsburgh Penguins. And suddenly we won 1-2. We start believing in ourselves. Even the game, in Pittsburgh, we're up 3-1, and they scored 2 goals with like 2 minutes left in the game, and they tie it. And I thought, oh shit, that's it. Our luck ran out, and suddenly David Wallach scores the Game 7 overtime goal. It's just an amazing feeling. I feel like I didn't realize at that time how special was that moment, because I was coming from a winning system in Russia, so I thought I'm gonna have years like that all the time, finals, semifinals, you know, and that's what was expected when you play in Russia. For the big teams, you always one or two, or you have to win a gold medal or silver, whatever. And my first year with Islanders, we were just to take it like it was carry over from a Soviet system. So I thought, that's not a big deal that we lost to Canadians. We're gonna do it next year again. But eventually, sometimes it gives you one chance, and it looks like that season actually for me was one of the best seasons I played in NHL.
That was I've heard other players from that team say the same thing about how tight, a lot of the core players were personally, and that led to a lot of success, particularly in the playoffs that year. And it's a shame because that a couple of years later, they basically just blew that whole team up when you guys were all still relatively young, and guys like Turgeon, they got rid of him, and Thomas, and it's a shame because I think that team could have gone a lot further. And I'm not really sure why they just decided to pull the plug on it. I don't know if you do.
I think maybe the system changed, the ownership changed. People try to stay, start fresh. We changed our logo. Identity, probably lost identity. Even right now, the logo looks so cool. But at that time, I remember seeing a fisherman logo first time. It was like, I was shocked. I was telling Travis Green, remember, I'm like, are they serious? Are they going to make us wear these shirts, jerseys? So I don't know what happened. We had a great team. I think the disappointment the year after when we lost to the Rangers, we get swept. I think that was Al Arbor's last coaching game, and I think somebody made a decision to change the system, change the culture, and sometimes you cannot do that. You cannot change the culture because if you look at the Islanders dynasty, you should be able to keep the same attitude all the time. Look what happened to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh was winning after the 92-91. They still won a lot of cups after because Pittsburgh still has the same attitude, about hockey. And it's still embedded there in the locker room. Every time I go to Pittsburgh, I still feel it that they have this laid back but hard-working attitude about the game, And the Islanders went through a lot of tough times. Even Pittsburgh went through a lot of tough times with bankruptcy, with having no money. But I don't know what happened with the Islanders. They totally changed everything.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, they changed radically. They didn't, they didn't go to the well-known rebuild or reshaping or different approach. They trashed the logo, trashed the uniform, started all over, which you probably knew at the time the fans were not positive about to begin with. It made a bad situation already worse. What do you think they're going to maybe add, after you get swept by the Rangers, maybe go out and add a little bit, see what you're missing, and come in and add it? They pretty much broke it all up. And I mean, that whole fiasco that started with those trades, and then they went and tried to get Kirk Muller, and Kirk Muller didn't want to come. What was going through your mind as a player? Like you said, you've been there 5 years or so. Once that snowball started rolling down the hill and getting bigger and bigger, leading into the next season, what was going through your mind as a player every day you had to show up to the rink?
Well, it was tough. I think the attitude in the locker room was still the same. We want to play hard and we want to win. But, when you play and people start booing you and you have half empty, stadiums, nobody's watching you, play. So it gets very, very tiring and very depressing. I think there was sometimes, that we felt very low. But I feel like, being an Islander fan, I think they're very passionate. And I think that's a lot of people got hurt and with all these changes. And, even I think Islanders drafted well after, 1994, 96 season. They start drafting well. They had a lot of good talent. But I don't know what happened. The Millbury gave them away. all of them. It's just weird.
Yeah,
Longo
we're
is
still
a
trying
Hall
to
of
figure
Famer.
it out too as fans. We're still trying to figure that out
It's
too.
just like Longo, for example, Brian Berard, McCabe, Bertuzzi, they all went
Ziggy
on.
Palfy. I
Ziggy
mean,
Palfy, Chara. Oh my God, look at Chara. They all went up. Like two of them, Longo and Chara became Hall of Famers. It's just weird.
And they dealt you. I mean, what was it like early on in 90?
96 season, yeah, they traded me. They traded me to Pittsburgh, the team that hated me the
Smolinski,
most.
right?
Yeah, Smolinski.
so
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you that question because the
What was the
92.
deal with that? You mentioned it. You mentioned there was a little something in the background with regard to that trade. How did that come about? Was the handwriting on the wall, or that was a shock to you?
I realized one thing. I mean, the week before, Mike Milbury told me specifically, say, Darius, I love your style. I love you the way you play. You here until I'm here. You part of this team forever. And then suddenly, a week later, I was packing for the California trip, and I received a phone call. And Mike Milbury goes, Casper, I'm sorry to tell you, you got traded. And I was like, Mike, you seriously joking? He goes, no, you got traded to Pittsburgh. I go, are you shitting me? Pittsburgh? they, they hate me there in Pittsburgh. Are you like not at Pittsburgh? I'm like, I'm not gonna go, basically. So, but what happened? I think the story was that Spano told Mike Milbury to trade me because Spano knew Mario Lemieux from playing golf in the summer, and Lemieux was looking for defensemen, physical defensemen, and suddenly, he realized he can have me, so he asked Spano, can he put a favor, and Spano told Milbury to trade me. You have to ask Mike Milbury the true story, but that's what I heard. So basically, my trade is illegal because the guy was not an owner of the team. I'm still part of the Islanders.
That's right. Yeah, maybe we can dial it back.
Back tomorrow.
We'll get you back.
We can use you since you're still playing. We could use you on the back line right now.
For like 2 shifts.
What's going on, man? And what do you? Well, I was going to ask you this later, but as long as we're on a subject, when you're watching hockey today, I know you say you don't watch it a lot, but you notice how the game has changed. How is it that it's become that even defensemen are a lot less physical in their own end these days? You just have one or two guys, not like the whole back line buying into being physical on the boards, in the corners, or even in front of the net. Forget about open ice. I mean, that's a rarity in itself.
I think even when I when I teach the kids right now, even right now, I do some clinics sometimes. I never tell the kids, like, oh, when you see a guy with a head down, you should hit him. When I grew up, that's how they taught us. Like my coach would tell me, when you play defense and you see the guy skating with a head down, you go and hit him. That's like, that's how we are taught. So basically we're taught to keep our heads up all the time. Or if you have somebody with head down, you hit them. You finish your check. So I think right now, I don't think those guys went through that system like we did, playing the physical game. And usually the game becomes physical only in playoffs because it means a lot. So some guys play more physical, but also the salaries, the suspensions, and I don't know. I just feel like people don't really they appreciate the hitting, but every time you see a big hit, everybody stops. So like, oh my god, like what's gonna happen now? If it's like a 2-year sentence for assault or things like that. So I think guys are a little bit afraid of hitting because they don't want to lose money and they don't want to lose games. So they play a lot of stick on puck game now.
So getting back real quick to your trade to Pittsburgh, what was it like? Because most of the guys that you played against in the playoffs that year in '93 were still on that team, particularly Lemieux, where you guys had a little bit of a bone picking, between each other. How were you accepted by the team when you got there? Was there any animosity there, or they just forget about it? It's part of the game, and we'd love to have you.
I was so nervous. I remember with Andreas Johansson, we got traded together. So I was at the LaGuardia airport, and we met, and it was like, AJ, they seriously traded me to Pittsburgh. They hated me. I don't know how I'm gonna do this. So I remember coming to a locker room, and Jaromir Jagr saw me. It's like, oh, this idiot. We have to put our helmets now on, the shoulder pads in practice. He's probably gonna start hitting us. And then Lemieux, I remember Mario told me, they say, listen, that he had a chemotherapy. He was barely alive, and I was chasing him around. So But they actually there was such a cool experience. I came to a locker room. I remember coming from the Millbury's system, all this misery, playing, losing all the time in Long Island, and going to Pittsburgh with all this Hall of Fame players. And I remember my first practice. I go on the ice. Nobody's wearing helmet, shoulder pads. It was just like, oh my God, what's going on here? And then suddenly we had a road trip same day. So we go on the plane. Everybody's playing cards, games. And I was like, wow, this is cool. And the relaxed atmosphere was there. It's unbelievable. And I remember we went on a run. I think we were unbeaten at 15 games when I got when I got to Pittsburgh. I think we didn't lose for 15 games in a row. I think Patrick Lalime broke the record or some kind of record at that time as the rookie goalie. So it was an awesome experience. Pittsburgh was a great experience for me. Only one thing I missed in the beginning in Pittsburgh, it was bagels with white fish salad. I took 10 bagels to Pittsburgh. Or in the morning when they make breakfast, you buy a roll, Kaiser roll with egg and cheese. They don't have that in Pittsburgh.
So it was a lot different, I guess, on the Millbury. Huh? It was much more strict atmosphere, or was it just depressed atmosphere because you weren't winning?
It was a strict. Mike was very strict. Mike was, old-fashioned coach. He was not taking things for granted. He let us know when we played bad. I remember he punished us with one time we practiced one time without the jerseys because he said you have to deserve to wear Islanders jerseys. So we skated without jerseys for practice, things like that. I had respect for Mike because I know exactly his passion for the game. But, a lot of things come from upstairs. So sometimes we feel like GM or coaches make decisions. But I think the boss makes decisions. I think that's why Islanders changed when Ledecky came in. He truly brought a passion for the game back to Long Island with what's his name? Melnick, but Melnick, yeah?
Malkin.
Malkin. Not Evgeny, but other Evgeny.
Malkin. Yeah.
Not related to Evgeny Malkin.
So the other question I was going to have for you is, there's always been rumors that that 92-93 series against the Penguins really got underneath Mario Lemieux's skin. Like, he doesn't like talking about it. He doesn't like talking about David Volek that's some of the things we've heard. And I was just curious, did you guys ever talk about that series? And what it really meant, I guess, eventually to Pittsburgh going on and winning 3 in a row.
I feel like I had a couple talks with the boys from Pittsburgh, and they feel like we got lucky, and I think they took us for granted. They thought it was gonna be easy series, and that's what happened. I think the biggest loss they have it's the Kevin Stevens injury. I think that changed the momentum of the series. Not my hit on Lemieux or Jagger. I think when Kevin Stevens got hurt, because I think he had a great year. He was on fire, was playing good. And I think that injury actually killed the team. And I think they admit it. I talked, to Mario a couple of times, to Tom Barrasso. I think Kevin Stevens' injury hurt the team a lot.
That was what, Rich Pilon hit him?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just an accident,
Yeah.
Oh, it was totally
him, I think.
together, man.
Yeah. And I think the Kevin Stevens after the hit, it was never the same. He lost a lot of things, in career.
Oh yeah. That was definitely a career ender. I mean, but that's one of those things that couldn't be held. It was a clean hit. It was a hard hit. It was a solid hit. But I think the biggest problem was I think Stevens was, even if it was momentarily, was out cold while he was still on his skates and then fell forward. And when he hit the ice, when all the damage was done.
Yeah, he lost consciousness when he got hit. Yeah, then he dropped it, hit the ice already unconscious. So, yeah, it was a sad thing. And I think that was the main reason. We played good, Glenn Healy played good. But main reason, I think, Stevens, one of the top players from the team, was out.
Oh, yeah, he was definitely a tough winger, definitely a power forward. Going back to that time again, we can dial it back. Prior to that, it was the the Washington series, and we had the Turgeon situation. And I was at that game with a bunch of guys that I had season tickets with, and that happened right in front of us. We were right by that face-off circle. And I can tell you, we see cheap shots over the years. To me, that was just one of the most blatant ones that I've ever seen. Maybe simply because of the way it happened. A goal being scored, a guy skating away, and a minute and a half later, it seemed like he gets run into the boards and blows his shoulder out. Tell us about that whole incident that you remember, how you were feeling inside, and what it was like after that game going into the room, even though you won. What was the feelings going on?
I don't remember much because I didn't realize Pierre, was going to miss the next series. I thought, I got hurt, but I didn't realize he got hurt that bad. So, it was not part of the game, but it happens. Listen, I think Hunter blew his mind. I think he was frustrated. And sometimes when you're frustrated, you do stupid things. I think he had mental lapse at that moment. I don't think he meant to hurt Pierre. It just, out of frustration, it pushed him. And, Pierre felt awkwardly and got hurt. But I feel like if Pierre, nothing would happen to him. It just probably would be a brawl and that's it. But unfortunately, he got hurt. So I don't remember much. I remember we missed Pierre and our best player during the Pittsburgh series. And I thought, like when he came back against Montreal, I thought we had a good chance to beat Montreal Canadiens. But it didn't happen. But the Hunter incident didn't affect us as much as people think.
No, because you go into that Pittsburgh series, and like I said, you take it 7 games, you shock them hockey world, including Pittsburgh the most, and you come away with that victory. I remember seeing Pierre on an interview once where he said that I think he was dressed for that 7th game, and he was ready to go on if needed or whatever like that, but I don't think he played much. Maybe he took a face-off, but he didn't really play in that series. You guys did it all without him. Moving forward into the Montreal series where you started to say, look, I'm not 100%, but I'm feeling like I can actually pull this off and get through this series. Put me in, coach. Did that give you guys a lift going into that series?
Well, of course, you have a best player on the team during the season to join you back, but I know it's so hard to come back from injury. So I don't remember much about the Montreal series. I remember that we got beat in overtime 3 times, I think, and that was the difference. And I think we just ran out of steam. But I think we not only ran out of steam, but I think we had such emotional roller coaster after beating Pittsburgh. So we had no time to recover. So what happened, I remember we left Pittsburgh, we went straight to Montreal. And I don't think we realized how important it is the first game of the series. And I don't think we were ready to play. So I think that was the tough part about playing Montreal Canadiens because they were well rested and we coming out a big win like that against basically for us it wasn't like winning the cup at that time, feeling we beat the Stanley Cup champions and nobody expect us to beat. So I think we didn't prepare ourselves properly for the next series.
Yeah, I can remember in that Montreal series, and I do you remember this? I know it's a long time ago, and you're in the middle of it. But did you feel? I remember watching it, and Ray, you chime in as well. Did you feel that you kind of got shafted by the refs a little bit in that series? I mean, I'm not one of those guys that cries about that stuff, but I really thought there were plenty of times that you guys got dragged down or hauled down, and the calls weren't made. And obviously, we had a couple of posts there. I think Turgeon and Hogue in overtime, maybe a couple of breakaways, boom, posts. So a little bit of bad luck there too. Do you remember that?
I don't remember, but I remember losing games in overtime because, I felt like, if we won those games, we'd probably be in the finals. So I think that is the difference. I think those 3 overtime games made it. I think we lost series 4-2, yeah? So there's a difference. Those 2, the 3 games, if you win 2 out of 3, they won all overtime games, I think. And I think Glenn Healy was tired too. He was exhausted. And of course, they had Patrick Roy in the net, so it's still one of the best goalies to play the game. So at that time, it was tough. But with referees, we always blame referees. My kids play soccer, they blame referees. We're also gonna blame.
Especially with it happens all the time with Montreal in the playoffs. It just does because everybody likes to have the scapegoat, and they right away say, everybody wants Montreal to win, that type of thing. I remember a few things.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, I
No.
remember a few things happening where it was questionable, but I think the whole series, they were kind of hands off and they were letting it
Yeah.
go. That's how I felt.
Yeah. Okay.
Moving forward, before we move on, uh, that was after that was when you started to see the little downslide, and it was pretty rapid prior to you being traded. Uh, did you see this coming? Was it a shock that the problems, the trouble to win, the hard facts were starting to settle in about the help you weren't getting by the time they dealt you to Pittsburgh? Um, what was that like going through that right before you got dealt?
One thing, it was tough because we had a lot of changes every 3 months. We had trades, we had new people coming, some guys going out. A lot of guys got traded from the 92-93 team. The core was not there anymore, and ownership changes, ownership problems, financial problems. I think that affected the team too. We're a beating down team. Coliseum was not a high tech arena at that time. It was, everything was falling apart, and I feel like it was tough, rough years for Islanders, and being on a team, but also playing for the team and being a fan. I think
Yeah.
the mid '90s was very rough.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So as we move forward towards the end of your career, you wind up going from Pittsburgh to Colorado for a short spell, and then you
Yeah.
wind up with the Rangers. Was there enough distance between your time on the island by the time you went to the Rangers that it really wasn't a big deal for you?
I realized one thing. When I played for the Rangers, the big games against Islanders for the Ranger players were not as huge as you play for the Islanders. For example, when I played for the Islanders, every time we played the Rangers, we hated them. We want to beat them. We want to basically run them out of the building. Well, when I played for the Rangers and we used to go to the National Coliseum or play in Madison Square Garden, I'd be like, oh, this is just a regular game. You didn't feel that. Um the same feeling as I felt even playing for the Pittsburgh. I remember we play Rangers, we want to destroy them. But when you play for the Rangers, I think maybe so because of big market team, every team you play, they hate you, So I feel like you get used to it, and I didn't really felt, that it was weird, but same time it was a very long time since I played for the Islanders to a 95, 96 season, and the Rangers was 6 years later. So it was a big. I was hoping that the Islanders can offer me a contract as a free agent, but they couldn't afford me.
Now things change, right?
You worked your way out of
When the
their market.
listen, when the Rangers gave me the contract, I told my agent it was too much money. I didn't deserve that much money, but my agent told me don't tell anybody.
Yeah,
Just
thank you
sign.
very much.
Yeah.
Both
I
getting
don't know. Listen,
paid.
I had three teams, same offer: Rangers, Maple Leafs, and Boston. And I choose the Rangers because I love New York. I love being in New York. I love being in Long Island at that time. So I want to stay, like, that was my home, New York. So that's why I choose the Rangers. Because it was New York team, and then after that I realized playing in the Garden was very special. It's a special place. It doesn't matter how much you hate the Rangers, but going to the Garden is, even for the player, it's special.
So you wind up. I don't know if a lot of fans notice nowadays is a pretty much a traditional thing that goes on after games. I think you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
That you've been credited with. So when you see an Islander game, I mean, it started with you with the Rangers, and then it's spread out. It's pretty much league wide now. That after a game,
Salute.
when you win, everybody goes to the center of the ice. They salute the fans, and then they head off.
Yeah.
That has been credited to you, Casper. Tell us a little bit about that, how that came about, and did it just surprise you that it spread league wide?
What happened when we played Capitals after the lockout season? We had the longest shootout game. It was a tie, and we had a shootout game. So we had two guys left on the bench, me and Marek Malik. And I asked Coach Tom Brenny, can I go before Marek? And the coach told me he's gonna go before me. Coach told me I will put the skates and is gonna shoot before I do, because I have no chance of scoring a goal. And remember what Marek did? He scored this beautiful goal, Marek Malik. He scored this beautiful goal, highlight goal. And then we were so excited. So what I did, I gathered the guys. I said, "Come, guys, come to the middle of the ice." I told Jagger, "Let's gather the guys in the middle of the ice like we do in Europe, and just raise the stakes, to appreciate, to say thank you to the fans." And that's what we did. Some guys looked weird. They say, "What the hell's going on?" But they just did it, and people went bananas, crazy. The Garden went crazy. So we decided to do this every time we win in the Garden. We start doing that, and playing Sweet Caroline song. so we did this, and it suddenly became a tradition. We did it after the playoffs series lost to Devils. We lost the series, but we still thanked the fans in the middle of the ice. We raised the sticks, and then after that, it just became a tradition. So there was just a fluke of excitement, just do the one time thing, and end up being a tradition.
I think that's fantastic because honestly, I didn't know about it until just recently. So I said, we definitely got to ask you about that. I think it's a pretty cool thing because, like you said, it's spread league wide. It's kind of a unifying thing for fans and the teams, and the teams all league wide themselves, all doing it. I think is a great thing. So good for you on that one.
Thank you.
But before we end it up, Darius, and we really appreciate your time. Nowadays, you said you have 6 children.
Yeah.
It sounded like one or two or some play hockey. So who plays hockey?
None of them play hockey. I live in Florida, so my girls don't play sports. They do sports, but like volleyball, rollerblading, and complaining. But my boys, my oldest son plays basketball, and my 2 boys play soccer. They're very good soccer players, and hopefully, they can achieve something as big as I did. But no pressure. I just want them to play for Manchester City. So we'll see what happens.
That's great. So nowadays, do you get to watch some games? Do you follow the Islanders closely, or are you just kind of like checking every now and then?
I watch some games, but most time I go to watch Panthers because I live nearby. So we have my company has a box. So I go to maybe 4 or 5 games a season. I take my kids to the game, and it got expensive, man. Pizza costs $50 in States. So I see the kids before the game usually, and then we just go watch the game because when Panthers won a cup, the prices went up. You usually can go watch Panthers for $12. Now it's hard to get a ticket.
Oh yeah.
So, but I watch Panthers a lot, and of course I watch playoffs. So the Islanders make playoffs. I always watch my former teams play.
Do you get back to Long Island a lot, or is it just a couple of times a year, or what?
I supposed to come this year for the alumni weekend, but I'm busy this year. But next year, definitely, I come back to Long Island. I brought my kids last year, and we had a blast. My kids didn't realize like when I was doing all these autograph sessions, and my kids realized, it goes, "What, Dad? You are special." They didn't realize that I was somebody because when you're home and I'm telling them all the stories, this and that, they're like, whatever. But when they see people actually want my autograph, they realize that something's going on. That achieved something in his playing career.
You sure did, especially when they're acting that way some 30 plus years after the fact.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no denying it.
Oh, quick story. I took my daughter Islanders game in Florida 2 years ago. She was wearing my Islanders jersey, Kasparaitis. And we're going to the game, and it's the kid wearing Kasparaitis jersey. And I was like, wow. I told my daughter, look, this kid's wearing my jersey. And I was so excited. So I go to the kid, dude, how do you know Kasparaitis? And his dad realized that was me. He was like, oh, my God, that's his jersey. It's like, his dad went crazy. That's the guy's jersey you wear. It was so cool to see that because, my kid had no idea, and this kid had no idea who I was. And they're both wearing the same jersey. So
that's
was
fantastic.
A cool story.
Always see a few Kasparaitis jerseys at the game, man.
Oh yeah, they're going up.
Yeah, they're too cheap to buy new ones.
Hey, well, you're still a beloved figure here, Darius. Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, again, a lot of times guys like us will say, geez, we need more guys like you, like Richie Pilon, guys like that. And that's like the newer type guys. We had all the Jerry Harts and the Dennis Poppins before you. And, nowadays, I think we could use a little bit more physicality back there.
That's why they have to hire me, Islanders, as the coach. So I teach them how to rough up people.
Yeah, well, look, you got my vote.
Yeah. Mine too.
Yeah.
All right, listen.
They say we want fish sticks. Say we want Casper. Put the sign.
That's right. Let's go. Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you.
So what we'll do is we'll sign off with this. Thank you very much for being on the show. You're as awesome as we expected. Again, a pleasure meeting you and having taken the time to speak with us and our listeners. We can't wait to get it out there. And I just wanted you to know, and I'll send you this picture with a text. During the week, we had a little teaser out there online saying our next guest can only be described this way, and it was a swinging wrecking ball with an Islander logo on it, breaking open a brick wall. So I said, can you guess who we're going to have on the show? There were a few people who said you. There were other people that they mentioned, but I'll send you that picture so you can have it.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. Well, listen, thanks
guys.
a lot for coming on. Appreciate it big time, my man. And we hope that when you come up here to Long Island, really, give us a little text. And we got places we could take you for a great dinner. We'd love to do it. We've got friends that are sponsors, and we know some great delis up here.
Oh, cool. Thank you. All right, guys. Bye.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks, Casper.
Bye.
Appreciate it.
Take
Have a
care,
good
man.
one. Thank you.